Black tech CEO slapped at billionaire gala. One quiet reveal ended their $2.8 billion empire. Diamond met skin in a single glittering arc. The emerald ring on Victoria Langford's right hand caught Alina Harper just beneath the left eye. Fire bloomed. Blood followed, warm, immediate, impossible to ignore. It traced a slow line down her cheek and disappeared into the ivory silk of her gown, a dark bloom no amount of tailoring could hide. The champagne flute left Alina's fingers. Crystal met marble with a sound like breaking ice. Shards scattered across the Pier Hotel ballroom floor, catching the light of a dozen chandeliers. The scent of vintage Dom Perignon rose sharp and sweet, mixing with the copper of blood and the heavy perfume of old money. For one perfect second, the entire gala stopped breathing. 200 of Manhattan's most powerful stood frozen in their gowns and tuxedos. Then the phones rose, slow at first, then in a hungry wave. Blue screens lit faces that had been smiling at charity speeches moments earlier. Victoria's voice cut through the hush, high and trembling with something that might have been rage or fear. "Security, this woman is harassing our donors, get her out." She was breathing hard. The same hand that had struck now hovered near her pearls, as if she could still feel the impact vibrating up her arm. At 48, Victoria Langford had spent decades curating the perfect image of grace. One backhand had cracked it. Preston Langford, 26 and soft around the edges from a life without consequences, gave a short laugh. "Mom," she probably wandered in looking for the staff entrance. "It happens." His chuckle died halfway when he noticed the blood on Alina's cheek. He shifted his weight, eyes darting to his mother for the next cue, the way he always had. Leela Langford, 22, already had her phone raised. Her glossy lips moved fast. "Hey guys, you won't believe what's happening at my mom's gala right now. Total mess. Some woman just watch." The live counter ticked upward, 29-0, 41-0, 67-0. Each new number made Leela's shoulders straighten a fraction more. Validation in real time. Alina Harper did not move. She lifted 2 fingers to the cut, felt the warmth, then lowered her hand. No gasp, no shout. Only the steady rhythm of a woman who had once been told in a foster home kitchen that she would never amount to anything. That memory flickered, quick, sharp, then gone. She had learned long ago that showing pain only invited more. Her voice, when it came, was calm enough to carry across the sudden silence. "I was introducing myself. Dr. Alina Harper, CEO of Apex Neural. Your husband and I closed the AI governance framework in Singapore yesterday. We were meant to align on tomorrow's joint statement." Victoria's laugh came out brittle. "Our home, our foundation, our guests, and you think you can just walk in here and—" She stopped. Alina had opened her clutch with deliberate slowness. A Singapore Airlines first-class ticket slid into view, yesterday's date, seat 1A, gold foil still crisp. Then the matte black Centurion card, edges catching light like a warning. Preston took one involuntary step back. "She's reaching for things." Leela's viewer count jumped to 11,400. Comments scrolled too fast to read, but the energy in the room thickened, half curiosity, half bloodlust. From the edge of the crowd, Sophia Chen pushed forward, her face draining of color. "Alina," the single word carried recognition sharp enough to shift the air. Victoria turned on her friend. "Sophia, stay out of this." But the name had already rippled outward. Whispers followed. "Harper, Apex Neural?" "The one who—" Security arrived. 2 men in pressed black polos bearing the Langford crest. The lead officer, Torres, mid-40s, wedding band visible, eyes tired from years of handling rich people's problems, stepped between them. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me." Alina met his gaze directly. "Officer Torres, before you do that, you might want to consider what happens next." She withdrew a slim folder from her clutch, blue legal backing. Langford tech letterhead visible at the edge. The crowd pressed closer, phones tilting like sunflowers toward the only source of light that mattered now. Victoria's hand rose again, this time not to strike, but to steady herself on a nearby table. Her fingers left faint prints on the white linen. Alina checked the slim Patek Philippe on her wrist. 8:57 p.m. The auction was scheduled to begin in 8 minutes. Torres reached for her elbow, grip firm but not yet cruel. Alina did not pull away. She simply said, "I wouldn't, not yet." The ballroom lights seemed to dim around the small circle of tension. Blood continued its slow journey down Alina's cheek, but her eyes remained steady, measuring, remembering, preparing. Yet as Tor's fingers tightened, Alina's private phone began to vibrate silently against her hip. Reginald Langford, SR. Calling for the 3rd time tonight. She let it ring. because the document in her folder was only the first layer of what she had brought with her. Tor's fingers sank deeper into the ivory silk at Alina's elbow, not cruel, not yet. Just the practiced pressure of a man who had removed 1,000 inconvenient people from rooms like this one. The fabric whispered against her skin, a soft betrayal. Alina felt the faint tremor in his thumb, human, uncertain, the wedding band cool where it brushed her wrist. She did not pull away, she simply looked at him. "Officer Tors," she said, voice low enough that only he and the nearest phones could catch it, "you're about to make a choice that will follow you home tonight." Victoria Langford's heels clicked forward. Why is she still standing here? Remove her. Now. Her voice cracked on the last word, the way a woman's does when the script she wrote for her own life suddenly skips. Up close, Alina could see the faint line where foundation met real skin, the tiny bead of sweat at her temple. Victoria was not a monster in this moment. She was a woman watching her evening, her reputation, her carefully constructed world begin to tilt. Preston laughed again, but the sound was thinner, almost boyish. "Come on, Mom's right. This is for the kids, right? Underprivileged children, not whatever this is." He gestured vaguely at Alina, but she slid the contract page forward so the gold Langford tech seal glinted. "Before you do that, Red Clause 14 billion. Any conduct by family members resulting in documented reputational harm, assault, public defamation, live-streamed discrimination, grants Apex Neural immediate termination rights with full damages." Victoria's hand flew to her pearls again. This time the gesture looked less regal, more like a woman clutching a life raft. "That's absurd. My husband would never sign something so." "He did," Alina said simply, "because I insisted on it. Because I've watched companies like yours chew up partners and spit them out when the optics shift." Preston's face flushed. "You're threatening us at a charity event for children." The word children came out louder than the rest, as if volume could make it true. But his eyes betrayed him, darting to Leela's phone, calculating how many of his own friends were watching this right now. Leela's viewer count hit 29,700. A comment scrolled across her screen in giant letters. "Wait, is that Dr. Elena Harper?" The younger guard reached for Alina's other arm. Tors hesitated. His radio crackled again, someone from hotel management, voice tight with panic. Alina could almost hear the calculations happening behind his eyes. Job, pension, the quiet life in Queens, versus the hurricane that would hit if he dragged the wrong woman out on camera. Alina leaned in just enough for Tors to hear. "You have a daughter, don't you? The one who wants to study engineering. How would you feel if someone treated her the way your boss is treating me right now?" Tors' jaw worked. The grip on her arm stayed, but the pressure changed. Less command, more plea. The ballroom clock above the auction podium clicked to 9:02 p.m. Victoria stepped closer, close enough that Alina could smell her perfume. Gardenia and something sharper underneath, like fear. "You people always do this, make everything about race. I was defending my event, my guests." The words landed like the second slap. Alina felt them settle in her chest, heavy and familiar. Not new, never new. But this time she was not 14. This time she carried $2.8 billion in her clutch and 14 years of proof that quiet preparation could outlast loud prejudice. She looked directly into Leela's camera lens, straight into the 31,400 eyes watching from bedrooms and offices and subway cars across the country. Then she spoke, soft but clear. "Officer Tors, I'm giving you one more chance to let go." Because the moment his hand left her arm, Alina Harper was going to open the folder to page 17. The page that would make every phone in the room start recording in earnest, and every empire in the room begin to tremble. Tors let go. His hand fell away from the ivory silk as if the fabric had burned him. For a heartbeat, the ballroom held its breath with him. Crystal glasses paused halfway to lips, waiters frozen mid-step, the string quartet's bow hovering above the strings. Alina felt the absence of pressure like a small victory no one else could see. She exhaled once, slow and controlled, the way she had learned in therapy after the third foster home. Then she turned the page in the blue folder. "Clause 14 billion, she said, voice carrying without effort. "In plain English, any act of physical aggression or public defamation by a principal or family member, captured on video, voids the entire framework and triggers liquidated damages equal to twice the contract value." A collective inhale swept the room. Victoria's face drained of the careful blush her makeup artist had applied 2 hours earlier. "Twice, that's 5.6 billion. Reginald would never." "He did." Alina kept her tone even almost gentle. Because I showed him the last 3 partners your company discarded after the press turned ugly. He wanted the protection, for both sides. Preston's whiskey glass trembled in his hand. The ice clinked once loud in the hush. This is blackmail, pure and simple. But the words lacked heat. He sounded like a boy who had just realized the game had real stakes and his mother no longer controlled the board. His eyes flicked to Leela's screen, where the viewer count now read 38,900 and climbing. A comment rolled past in giant white letters. Wait, Apex Neural. That's the company that saved my dad's factory from bankruptcy last year. Leela's thumb hovered over the mute button. She didn't press it. Part of her, the part that had chased clout since middle school, wanted the numbers. The other part, smaller but growing, felt the first cold thread of regret twist in her stomach. She shifted her weight, the diamond bracelet suddenly heavy. Sophia Chen moved closer to Alina, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Alina, let's take this to the green room. Please. Her voice cracked on the last word, not from fear for herself, but from the memory of the two of them at 3 a.m. in a WeWork, eating cold pizza and swearing they would never let the industry break them the way it had broken their mothers. Alina gave the smallest shake of her head. They started the live stream, Sophia. They made this public. Victoria stepped forward again, but slower this time, as though the marble floor had turned to ice. You people always play the victim card. I barely touched you. It was an accident. Everyone saw. Everyone is still seeing, Alina said quietly, nodding toward Leela's phone. The camera lens stared back like 1,000 unblinking eyes. A new comment exploded across Leela's screen in real time. That's Dr. Alina Harper. She spoke at my HBCU last spring, gave my sister her first internship. This is insane. Preston read it over his sister's shoulder. His mouth opened, closed. For the first time all night he looked at Alina, not as an intruder, but as a person who had a history, a name, a legacy that existed long before this ballroom. The realization landed like a quiet punch to the ribs. Torres cleared his throat. Mrs. Langford, hotel management is on the line. They're suggesting we pause. His radio crackled again. This time the voice on the other end was higher, more urgent. Alina caught fragments. Board members calling, stock ticker moving, do not escalate. Victoria's manicured nails dug into her own palms. This is my gala, for underprivileged children, and she's turning it into a circus. Alina felt the familiar sting behind her eyes, not tears, but the old ache of being reduced to a stereotype in real time. She thought of her daughter, asleep right now in their Tribeca apartment with the nightlight shaped like a neural network, the one Alina had 3D printed herself. She thought of the text she had sent her daughter before leaving. Mama's handling some grown-up business. Love you bigger than the sky. She would not let tonight become another story her daughter had to carry. She turned another page in the folder, slower this time, letting the paper's soft rasp fill the silence. Page 19, she said. Personal guarantee. Reginald Langford S.R., personally liable if family conduct triggers termination. His signature is right here, next to mine. A woman in the second row actually sat down on the nearest chair as if her legs had given out. Her husband stared at his own phone, already pulling up Langford Tech's stock price on a private trading app. Leela's viewer count crossed 47,000. A single comment froze on screen long enough for half the room to read it. My mom works at Langford Tech. She's 57. If they lose this deal, she loses her pension. Someone stop this. Preston's face crumpled, not in anger but in something closer to panic. He looked at his mother, then at Alina, then at the blood still drying on Alina's cheek like a signature she had never asked to give. Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper only the inner circle could hear. Please, not here. Not in front of everyone. Alina met her eyes directly. For the first time, Victoria saw something beneath the calm, steel forged in places Victoria had never had to visit. Alina closed the folder with a soft snap. Then perhaps, she said, you should ask your daughter to stop recording. But Leela's thumb never reached the button, because at that exact moment her father's private jet was touching down at Teterboro and Reginald Langford S.R. was already dialing the number that would change whose empire was truly at risk. Tor's hand dropped. The absence of pressure felt louder than any shout. Alina's arm stayed exactly where it was, steady, as if the silk gown itself refused to acknowledge the insult. The ballroom lights caught the drying blood on her cheek like a signature she had never consented to give. Victoria lunged half a step forward, then caught herself, fingers curling into fists that trembled at her sides. You think a piece of paper gives you the right to ruin my night? My foundation raises millions for children who actually need help, not for whatever agenda you're pushing." The words landed heavy, the kind of casual cruelty that had probably slipped out in country club brunches for decades. Preston winced visibly, the first crack in his trust fund armor. He looked at his mother as though seeing her for the first time through someone else's eyes. Leela's phone screen glowed hotter. Viewer count, 52,000. A comment in bold letters scrolled past. "My boss is black and brilliant like her. If this happened to him, I'd quit on the spot." Elena opened the folder again, the paper whispering like a secret finally told. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. "Page 17, she began, tracing the text with one calm finger. "Family conduct provision, any physical act or public statement by a spouse, child, or dependent that materially harms the partnership's reputation, documented by video, witness testimony, or social media, triggers immediate termination and full penalty payment." She paused, letting the words settle. A black waiter near the dessert station lowered his tray slowly, eyes locked on Elena with quiet recognition. He had heard versions of that sentence in break rooms his whole career. Victoria's laugh came out brittle. "That's not even legal. Reginald would sue you into the ground." Elena turned the page without looking up. "Page 18, Personal Liability Addendum. Reginald Langford S.R. personally guarantees the contract. His signature is here, dated yesterday, witnessed by 2 Singapore notaries and my COO. If family behavior voids the deal, he pays the $5.6 billion from his private holdings first." A hedge fund wife in the front row actually clutched her husband's sleeve. "That's his yacht fund," she whispered, loud enough for 3 rows to hear. Preston's face lost another shade of color. He set his whiskey down so hard the glass rang. He wouldn't sign something that lets one slap cost us everything." Elena met his eyes directly. "He did, because last quarter Langford Tech lost 3 major clients after a similar incident at a board retreat. One of them was a woman who looked like me. Your father asked for the strongest clause I could write. He wanted protection. He just never imagined it would be from his own family." The waiter near the desserts nodded once, almost to himself. "Elena," he said, voice hoarse from the flight but steady enough to carry. "Don't." Victoria spun, relief flashing across her face before shame chased it away. "Reginald, thank God, tell her this is insane. Tell her it was a misunderstanding." Reginald didn't look at his wife. He looked at the thin red line on Elena's cheek, then at the blue folder still open in her hand. For 68 years, he had negotiated with kings and algorithms. Tonight he looked smaller, human, the way fathers do when their children break something priceless. Preston stepped forward, voice cracking like the boy he still was underneath the bravado. "Dad, she says the whole deal's dead because of what happened. $5 billion, personal guarantee. Is that even real?" Reginald closed his eyes for 1 second, the weight of Singapore yesterday pressing on him. "It's real." The words dropped like a guillotine. Leela's live stream hit 74,000 viewers. A comment in all caps froze on screen. "My uncle works night shift at Langford's Newark plant. If they lose this AI deal, he loses overtime for his kid's surgery. This can't be happening." Elena watched Reginald's shoulders drop. She had sat across from him in a Singapore boardroom less than 30 hours ago, 2 CEOs who respected each other's scars. He had told her then, quietly over black coffee, that his own father had once lost everything in a bad merger, and he never wanted his children to know that fear. Now the fear was here, wearing pearls and holding a phone. She turned to page 24 without ceremony. "Supplier chain veto," she read, voice low and clear. "Apex Neural holds a blocking minority stake in Langford's primary Asian component manufacturer, acquired quietly 2 years ago when your team tried to bypass ethics audits. Any termination for cause gives us first right of refusal on all future contracts. In plain terms, without our approval, your new Singapore hub never opens." Victoria's hand flew to her throat. "You planned this." For years, Elena met her eyes without anger, only the quiet exhaustion of someone who had learned early that the world didn't hand out second chances. "I planned for survival, Mrs. Langford, the same way you planned for perfection." A soft gasp rose from the back. The black waiter, Marcus, had set his tray down completely. He stepped forward, voice trembling but resolute. "Ma'am, Dr. Harper, my sister applied to Langford Tech last year. They told her she was not a cultural fit. She's a senior engineer from MIT. Tonight I watched Mrs. Langford do to you what they did to her in that interview room. If this deal dies, my sister loses the only offer she had left." The room shifted again, not in rage this time, but in recognition. A white executive in the third row pulled out his own phone, checking Langford's after-hours trading. The numbers were already twitching downward. Reginald rubbed his face. "Elena, name your terms, whatever it takes, my family will." "No," Elena said gently. "Not yet. Page 25 first." She traced the text. Diversity performance lock. For the contract to remain active, Langford Tech must hit measurable targets. 30% increase in Black and Latino executive hires within 18 months, full pay equity audit, and supplier diversity spend of at least 15%. Failure triggers automatic AI throttling. Your predictive models run at 70% efficiency until corrected. Your father approved the language because he saw the data. Diverse teams outperform by 29% in our simulations. Preston stared at his father. "You agreed to that?" Reginald nodded once heavy. "I did, because the alternative was watching this company die the way my father's did, slow, proud, and avoidable." Leela lowered the phone slightly, tears smudging her mascara for the first time all night. The viewer count kept climbing, 89,000, but the comments had changed tone. "This is actually heartbreaking. My mom is a Langford admin. She's 61. Please don't let them lose everything over one stupid slap." Sophia touched Elena's wrist, a silent reminder of the late nights they had spent building Apex from nothing. Elena felt the warmth there, the unspoken promise that she was not alone in this room. Victoria stood frozen, the gardenia perfume now mixed with the sharp scent of panic sweat. For the first time, she looked at Elena not as an intruder, but as the woman who held her family's future in a slim blue folder. Elena closed the folder halfway. "I'm not here to destroy anyone," she said, voice carrying the weight of every time she had been the only one in the room who looked like her. "But I am here to make sure this never happens again to the next woman who walks through those doors." She turned to Reginald. "Your family has one path forward, public apology on the same live stream. Mandatory bias training, not the performative kind, the real kind. A $10 million fund for minority-owned AI startups, administered independently. And an app, anonymous reporting, real-time escalation built by Sophia's team, so no one ever has to stand here alone again." The ballroom waited, breath held. Reginald looked at his wife, his son, his daughter, then back at Elena. "Tell me what to say," he whispered. But before Elena could answer, Victoria took one shaking step forward, reached for Leela's phone, and did the one thing no one in the room expected. She turned the camera on herself. Victoria's fingers closed around Leela's phone. The device trembled between them, mother and daughter locked in a silent tug-of-war that lasted less than 2 seconds but felt like years. Leela's eyes widened, mascara-streaked and stunned. Victoria pulled the phone free, turned it so the front camera faced her own face and pressed record again. The live stream restarted instantly. Viewer counts surged. 92,000, 104,000, 118,000 in the first 10 seconds. Notifications pinged like gunfire across the room. Victoria stared straight into the lens. Her lips parted, closed, parted again. The gardenia perfume that had once seemed regal now clung to her like regret. "My name is Victoria Langford," she said. The words came out small at first, cracked at the edges. "Tonight I assaulted Dr. Elena Harper. I struck her because I assumed she didn't belong here, because of how she looked, because of my own fear and ignorance." The ballroom went deathly still. Even the string quartet had stopped playing entirely. Victoria swallowed. "There is no excuse, no justification. I saw a black woman in evening wear and my first thought was intruder, not partner. I was wrong, violently wrong. And because of me, a woman who has built more in her life than I ever will was bleeding in front of my family's guests." She paused. A single tear escaped the corner of her eye, unscripted, unbotoxed. It traced a clean path through her foundation. "I am sorry, Dr. Harper, truly, deeply sorry. I cannot undo the cut on your cheek or the humiliation I caused, but I can promise to change." Preston stared at his mother as though she had grown a second head. His mouth hung open, no smirk, no quip, just raw disbelief. Leela reached for the phone again, but Victoria held it steady. "No, sweetheart, let it run. Everyone needs to hear this." Reginald stepped closer to his wife. He did not touch her, but the space between them softened for the first time all night. Victoria continued, voice gaining strength. "I will complete 60 hours of bias and anti-racism training with a program chosen by Dr. Harper. My entire family will join me. The Langford Foundation will establish a $10 million fund for Black and minority-owned tech startups. No strings, no board veto, independent oversight. We will build an anonymous incident reporting app, developed in partnership with Sophia Chen's team, so no employee or guest ever has to stand alone again. The viewer count crossed 142,000. Comments flooded faster than anyone could read. This is actually happening. I'm crying in my car right now. My daughter just texted me, she's watching too. Victoria lowered the phone slightly but kept recording. She looked directly at Alina. I don't expect forgiveness tonight, I don't deserve it. But I ask for the chance to prove I can be better, for my children, for the people who work for us. For the children this foundation was supposed to help before I turned it into my own stage. Alina stood motionless. The blood on her cheek had dried to a thin, rust-colored line. She felt the weight of every eye in the room, every phone, every life potentially changed by this one moment. She thought of her own mother, long gone, who had cleaned white people's houses so Alina could study late into the night. She thought of the foster siblings who had disappeared one by one because no one believed their stories. She thought of her daughter, who would wake up tomorrow and see this clip before school. Quietly, Alina opened the folder one final time. Page 28, she said. Amendment clause. The partnership survives only if all named remedies are executed within 30 days, verified by third-party audit. Noncompliance triggers automatic dissolution and full penalty payment. She closed the folder. The snap echoed like a gavel. But tonight, Alina continued, I accept your apology on the record. I accept the commitments you just made publicly. And I will hold you to them, not out of vengeance, but because the world needs proof that change is possible even after the worst has happened. Reginald exhaled, shoulders dropping in visible relief. Preston wiped his eyes with the back of his sleeve, unashamed. Leela finally took the phone back, but she pointed it at the floor now, ending the stream with a soft tap. Viewer count froze at 157,000. Marcus, the waiter, stepped forward again. Dr. Harper, thank you for all of us who have been in rooms like this and stayed silent. Alina met his gaze. You don't have to thank me, Marcus. You just have to keep showing up. The string quartet began to play again, soft, tentative, a single violin carrying the melody. The crowd began to shift, conversations restarting in hushed tones. Phones lowered one by one. Victoria handed the phone to Leela, then turned to Alina. May I offer you something for the cut? Ice, a bandage. Alina touched the dried blood lightly. It's already healing. She looked around the room, at the faces that had been frozen in outrage, curiosity, shame, hope. At the woman who had struck her now standing vulnerable under the same chandeliers. At the family that had just watched their world tilt and choose against every instinct to right itself. Alina checked her watch. 9:47 p.m. Because as the auction finally began, late, subdued, almost forgotten, Alina's second phone buzzed once more. This time the message was from her daughter. Mom, I saw everything. I'm proud of you, but please come home soon. I need to hug you. Alina's thumb hovered over the reply button. The message from her daughter glowed on the screen. Mom, I saw everything. I'm proud of you, but please come home soon. I need to hug you. 12 years old. Still young enough to believe a hug could fix almost anything. Old enough to understand that sometimes the world struck first and asked questions later. Alina typed 3 letters, OMW, then deleted them. She needed more than 3 letters tonight. She needed to breathe air that didn't smell of gardenia and shame. She slipped the phone back into her clutch. The ballroom had resumed a fragile rhythm. The auctioneer's gavel tapping tentatively, bids murmured rather than shouted, champagne glasses refilled with hands that still shook. The string quartet played something slow and minor, the notes drifting like smoke after a fire. Victoria approached first, slow, palms open, no sudden movements. She looked smaller without the armor of certainty. Dr. Harper, she said quietly, may I speak with you privately, just for a moment? Away from the cameras. Alina studied her. The tear tracks had dried into faint silver lines. The Botox no longer held, small muscles around her eyes twitched with real feeling. No more cameras tonight, Alina answered. But yes. One moment. They moved to the edge of the ballroom, near a velvet-curtained alcove where the chandelier's light barely reached. The noise of the gala dulled to a distant hum. Victoria spoke first, voice barely above a whisper. I keep replaying it in my head. The moment I saw you standing there, poised, beautiful, successful, and instead of admiration, I felt threatened. Not by you, by what you represented. That's someone who looks like you could stand where I've spent my life trying to belong. Alina let the words settle between them. No interruption, no defense, just listening, the hardest part of any confrontation. I was raised to believe certain spaces were mine by birthright, Victoria continued. I never questioned it until tonight, until I saw my own daughter holding the phone like a weapon and my son looking at me like I was a stranger. I broke something tonight that can't be glued back together, not easily. Alina touched the dried cut again. It stung less now. You didn't break me, Victoria. You hurt me. There's a difference. Victoria nodded, eyes glistening again. I know. And I'm terrified that the hurt I caused you will echo in ways I can't predict. In boardrooms, in hiring rooms, in the lives of people who will never meet me but will feel the ripple of my ignorance. From the alcove's shadow, Preston appeared, hands in pockets, shoulders hunched. He had shed the tuxedo jacket somewhere. The white shirt looked rumpled, boyish. Mom told me to stay away, he said, but I couldn't. I need to say this too. Alina waited. Preston swallowed. When I said you probably wandered in from catering, I was trying to be funny, like the guys at the club. Like Dad used to be before he got serious about the company. I didn't think about what those words do when they land on someone who's heard them her whole life. I didn't think about you at all, and that's the worst part. He looked at his mother, then back at Alina. I want the training, not because you're making me, because I don't want to be the guy who makes that joke again, ever. Leela slipped in behind him, phone face down in her hand. No live stream. No filters, just a young woman whose makeup had run and whose confidence had cracked open. I ended the stream, she said. But the clips are everywhere already. People are calling me a monster. Some are calling you a hero. I don't know what I am right now, but I know I pointed that camera at the wrong person tonight. Alina felt the ache in her chest shift, not gone, but different, less sharp, more like pressure that could be released if she let it. She looked at the three of them, mother, son, daughter, standing close but not touching, each carrying their own piece of the night's wreckage. I accept your individual apologies, Alina said, and I'll hold you to the public commitments. But more than that, I need you to understand something. She stepped closer, voice dropping to the register she used when speaking to her daughter after a nightmare. Tonight wasn't about destroying your family, it was about protecting mine, and every family like mine that walks into spaces that were never built for us. If the only way you learn that is through public humiliation, then so be it. But if you learn it through reflection, through real work, through listening when no one's filming, that's the victory I actually want. Victoria reached out, hesitated, then let her hand fall. Will you let us try? Not for optics, for real. Alina considered the question. She thought of her daughter's text again, of the hug waiting in Tribeca, of the life she had built brick by quiet brick while the world kept trying to knock it down. Yes, she said finally, but the clock starts now. 30 days for verification, no extensions, no excuses. Reginald joined them then, silent until this moment. He carried 2 fresh flutes of water, plain, no champagne. To new beginnings, he said, offering one to Alina first. She accepted it. The glass was cool against her palm. She drank slowly, tasting nothing but clarity. The auctioneer's voice rose in the distance. Final call for a diamond necklace no one seemed to want any more. Alina checked her watch. 10:12 p.m. because as she turned to leave the alcove, Marcus the waiter approached once more, holding out a small folded napkin. Inside, written in careful block letters, were 3 words that stopped her cold. My sister says thank you. Marcus held out the folded napkin like it was made of glass. Alina accepted it without speaking. The paper was still warm from his palm. She unfolded it slowly, the creases sharp against her fingertips. Inside, in neat block letters written with a borrowed ballpoint. My sister says thank you. No signature, no flourish, just those 5 words carrying the weight of years. Alina looked up. Marcus stood there, mid-30s now that she saw him clearly, uniform slightly too tight across the shoulders, eyes steady but shining. He had taken off his white server's jacket. Underneath was a plain gray t-shirt, the kind worn by people who worked double shifts and still dreamed bigger. She's watching the stream right now, Marcus said quietly. In our apartment in Newark. She texted me 3 minutes ago. Said she cried when you read the supplier veto clause. Said it felt like someone finally saw what they did to her in that interview. Alina folded the napkin again, slipped it into her clutch next to the contract. The small rectangle pressed against the blue folder like a counterweight. Thank you for giving this to me, she told him. Tell your sister she doesn't owe me gratitude, she owes herself persistence. The same persistence that got her through MIT while people told her she didn't fit the culture. Marcus nodded once, throat working. She's applying to Apex next week. If you'll have her. Alina smiled, small, real, the first unforced one since the emerald ring had met her skin. Send her resume to my personal assistant tomorrow morning. Tell her the subject line should read, Marcus's sister. She'll get an interview. No promises beyond that, but she'll get heard. Marcus exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since the first champagne flute shattered. He stepped back, gave a small bow, not servile, just respectful, and disappeared into the crowd that was slowly thinning toward the exits. Elena turned back to the alcove. Victoria, Reginald, Preston, and Leela still stood there, a loose knot of people who no longer knew quite how to stand near each other. Reginald spoke first, voice rough from unshed tears and jet lag. Elena, the board is already texting me. They want an emergency call at dawn. They're terrified the stock will gap down 15% at open. Elena nodded. She had expected this. They should be. Markets hate uncertainty. But uncertainty cuts both ways. If you announce tomorrow that Langford Tech is committing to the reforms we discussed, publicly, transparently, the narrative flips, from scandal to leadership, from crisis to courage. Victoria looked at her husband, then at Elena. Will you stand with us at the press conference? Tomorrow morning, joint statement? The question hung fragile between them. Elena considered it. She thought of the optics. A black CEO who had been assaulted, now sharing a podium with the family responsible. She thought of the message it would send to every woman watching from cubicles and kitchens. She thought of her daughter who would see the photo before breakfast. Yes, Elena said, but on two conditions. First, the statement names the incident clearly, no euphemisms, no misunderstanding. Second, I speak last. And what I say will not be scripted by your PR team. Reginald didn't hesitate. Done. Preston cleared his throat. Can I say something too? Not a lot, just that I was wrong, that I'm going to do the training. That I'm sorry. Leela looked at her brother, surprised, then at Elena. I want to post my own apology, not live, not performative, a written one, tomorrow, with the fund announcement attached. And I'll credit you for the idea of the reporting app. Elena studied the young woman. The influencer gloss had cracked completely. Underneath was someone who might one day understand the power and danger of a lens pointed the wrong way. Write it tonight, Elena said. Sleep on it. Post it when you're sure every word is yours, not polished for likes. Leela nodded, eyes bright again, not from tears this time, but from something closer to purpose. The string quartet had packed up. The waitstaff were quietly clearing tables. The ballroom felt suddenly too large, too empty, the echoes of outrage and apology still hanging in the air like perfume that refused to fade. Elena stepped toward the main doors. The cool draft from the lobby carried the scent of rain on Fifth Avenue asphalt. Victoria called after her, soft but urgent. Dr. Harper, Elena, one more thing. Elena paused. Victoria walked closer, heels clicking slower than before. I don't know how to ask this without sounding entitled, but may I hug you, not for forgiveness, just because I need to feel what I almost destroyed. The request landed gently. Elena considered the woman standing before her, flawed, frightened, finally seeing. She thought of her own daughter's text again, of the hug that waited at home. She opened her arms. It was not a long embrace. No dramatic music swelled. No cameras captured it. Just two women, one still bleeding faintly, the other still trembling, holding each other for 7 quiet seconds in the shadow of a velvet curtain. When they separated, Victoria's makeup was smudged against Elena's shoulder. Neither mentioned it. Elena walked out of the alcove, through the thinning crowd, past the auction podium where unsold lots waited like forgotten promises. Marcus caught her eye one last time near the coat check. He raised a single hand, not a wave, just acknowledgement. She raised hers in return. Outside, the October night air hit her face like absolution. Rain had started, soft, steady, washing the city clean. Elena hailed a cab. The driver glanced at the dried blood on her cheek, then at her eyes, and asked no questions. As the taxi pulled away from the pier, Elena pulled out her phone. She opened her daughter's message again. This time she replied, On my way, baby. Mama's coming home. But as the cab turned onto Fifth Avenue, her second phone lit up with a single notification from the Langford Tech Investor Relations alert system. Urgent board emergency vote scheduled 6 o'clock am motion on table to remove Reginald Langford SR as chairman. The emergency board text arrived at 5:47. Elena's phone vibrated once on the nightstand, short, insistent, the way bad news announces itself before sunrise. She reached for it without opening her eyes fully, the dried cut on her cheek pulling as she moved. Motion on table. Removal of Reginald Langford SR as chairman and CEO. Vote scheduled 6 o'clock am Eastern. Proxy votes already locked in favor. Reason cited, material reputational damage from last night's incident. She sat up slowly. The Tribeca apartment was still dark except for the soft blue glow of her daughter's neural network night light in the next room. Rain tapped the windows like fingers impatient for morning. Elena read the message twice. Then she opened the secure Apex portal and pulled up Langford Tech's after-hours trading chart. The line had already dipped 7% in pre-market, not catastrophic. Yet, she dressed quietly, simple black cashmere sweater, tailored trousers, no makeup to cover the faint scar. Let it show. Let the world see what healing looked like. By 5:58 a.m., she was in the back of a black SUV heading downtown. Marcus Hale, her COO, confidant, the man who had quietly loved her for years without ever saying the words, sat beside her. He had driven over the moment she texted him at 4:30. "You don't have to do this in person," he said. "We can Zoom or let them stew." Elena shook her head. "If I'm going to ask them to change, I have to show up where it hurts most." In the room, the Langford headquarters lobby was empty except for security and the night cleaner who recognized Elena from the viral clips and gave her a small, wordless nod. The elevator ride to the 52nd floor felt longer than the flight from Singapore. When the doors opened, the boardroom smelled of fresh coffee and old fear. 10 faces turned toward her, 9 white, 1 South Asian, all men except for 2 women who looked as exhausted as she felt. Reginald sat at the head, tie still loose from the night before, eyes bloodshot. No one spoke for the first 7 seconds. Elena walked to the empty chair opposite Reginald. She did not sit. "I'm not here to save your chairmanship," she said. "I'm here to save the company you built and the people who depend on it." One director, a silver-haired hedge fund veteran, leaned forward. "With respect, Dr. Harper, last night's footage has already cost us 2 institutional investors. The board feels exposed." Elena cut in, calm but unyielding. "Because the footage shows exactly what some of you have whispered in closed sessions for years. That diversity is a checkbox, not a competitive advantage. That women like me are tokens until we become threats." She opened her tablet. The screen lit her face in cool blue. "Before you vote, look at these numbers. Langford Tech's predictive models, without Apex integration, will fail EU AI Act compliance by July. That's 43% of your European revenue gone, overnight." She swiped to the next slide. "Your Singapore hub, already 6 weeks delayed. Without our governance layer, the first data breach costs you another 18% market cap. I know because I ran the simulations myself." Reginald's voice was rough. "Elena, they're saying I let personal conduct jeopardize the firm." "You did," she said simply, "but removing you doesn't fix the underlying problem. It just changes who signs the checks." She turned the tablet toward the room. "Alternative motion I'm proposing right now. Reginald remains chairman but with new oversight. Apex Neural appoints 1 independent board seat, effective immediately. We co-chair the Diversity and Ethics Committee. The $10 million fund launches next quarter. The reporting app prototype goes live in 90 days. And every quarterly earnings call includes a public diversity scorecard, verified by third party." A younger director, early 40s, the only other person of color in the room, spoke up. "That's unprecedented. So is a CEO's wife assaulting your largest strategic partner on live stream," Elena replied. "Precedent is overrated when survival is on the line." Silence stretched. The silver-haired director cleared his throat. "And if we vote no?" Elena met his eyes. "Then I walk out of this room, file the termination notice before market open, and Langford Tech spends the next 18 months trying to rebuild trust with partners who no longer believe you can govern your own house." Reginald looked at her, really looked. Not as a business adversary, as the woman who had held his wife while she cried, as the mother who had answered her daughter's text instead of staying for applause. He stood. "I second Dr. Harper's motion," he said, "and I'll vote in favor." One by one, hands rose, not enthusiastically, not happily, but steadily. The final tally, 7-3 in favor. Reginald exhaled like a man who had been drowning and finally found air. Elena closed her tablet. "The press conference is at 9. I'll see you there." She walked to the door, paused, turned back. "One last thing," she said. "The next time someone like me walks into this building for an interview, make sure the first question isn't about cultural fit. Make it about what she can do." No one answered. They didn't need to. Outside, the sky over Manhattan was turning the color of new beginnings, pale gold at the edges. Elena's phone buzzed, her daughter. "Mom, the news is saying you just saved thousands of jobs. Is that true?" Elena smiled against the screen. "Tell you over breakfast, baby, pancakes." But as the elevator doors closed, her second phone lit up again, this time with an encrypted message from an unknown number. We need to talk, off the record, about the real reason I pushed for the personal guarantee clause 2 years ago. The encrypted message glowed on Alina's phone like a secret that had waited too long to speak. We need to talk, off the record, about the real reason I pushed for the personal guarantee clause 2 years ago. RLJR, Reginald Langford Jr., the quiet younger brother who had never appeared on any org chart, never spoken at shareholder meetings, never posed for Forbes covers. The one the family referred to only as the consultant when they bothered to mention him at all. Alina stared at the sender line for a full 10 seconds before replying. Where and when? The response came in under 30, my loft, West Village. 7 p.m. tonight. Come alone. She glanced at the clock. 11:14 a.m. Her daughter was still at school. Pancakes had turned into a quick yogurt parfait and a promise of ice cream after homework. The press conference loomed at 9 o'clock a.m. tomorrow. Joint statement, cameras, the whole carefully choreographed redemption arc. But this message felt like a loose thread in a tapestry she thought she had already finished weaving. She arrived at the address at 6:58 p.m. The building was discreet. Red brick, no doorman, just a buzzer and a nameplate that read simply Langford. She pressed it once. The door clicked open without a voice. Reginald Jr. waited at the top of the narrow staircase. Mid-30s, lean, dark hair longer than his father's, wearing a plain navy sweater and jeans that looked lived-in. No Rolex, no cufflinks. Just tired eyes that had seen more than the family ever let on. Thank you for coming, he said. No handshake, just a small gesture toward the open living room. The space was sparse, bookshelves floor to ceiling, a single leather armchair, a low coffee table holding 2 untouched mugs of tea. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the quiet street below. Rain had started again, soft against the glass. Alina sat. Reginald Jr. remained standing. I was the one who insisted on the personal guarantee clause, he began. Not Dad, he fought me on it for months, said it was insulting, paranoid. I told him it was insurance. Alina waited. He crossed to the window, back to her, watching the rain streak the pane. 2 years ago, I was dating someone. A woman named Aisha. Black, brilliant, general counsel at a competitor. We kept it quiet. Family dinners were complicated. One night at the house in the Hamptons, Victoria walked in on us in the library. She didn't scream. She just looked at Aisha the way she looked at you last night. Then she turned to me and said very calmly, "This isn't what we do, Preston." She used my brother's name, not mine, like I was already erased. He turned. His face was calm, but his hands were clenched at his sides. I ended it the next week. Told Aisha it was too hard. She asked why I was letting fear win. I didn't have an answer, so I buried myself in the legal team instead. When the Singapore deal came up, I drafted the clause myself. Made it ironclad. Told Dad it was about protecting the company from activist investors. The truth is I wanted to protect someone, anyone, from ever feeling what Aisha felt that night. What you felt last night? Alina felt the air shift in the room the way it does when truth finally finds oxygen. I never told Dad the real reason, Reginald Jr. continued. Never told Victoria, never told Preston or Leela. I just made sure the clause existed, and when I saw the clips this morning, I realized it had worked. Not the way I planned, but it worked. Alina leaned forward slightly. You could have warned me before Singapore, before the gala. I could have, he admitted, but I was still ashamed, still hiding, still hoping the family would change on their own. Stupid, I know. Silence settled between them, comfortable, not tense. Alina spoke quietly. Your sister ended the live stream herself last night. Your brother asked for training without being forced. Your mother hugged me in front of no cameras. Your father just fought to keep his chair so he could oversee the changes. They're trying, Reginald, late, painfully, but trying, he nodded. I saw the pre-market bounce, the board vote. I know what you did this morning. You didn't just save the company. You gave them a chance to become something better than what they were. Alina stood. The press conference is tomorrow. If you want to speak off script from the back row, no title, I'll make sure there's a seat. Reginald Jr. gave a small, surprised smile, the first real one she had seen from any Langford tonight. I'll be there, he said, not to speak, just to listen, and maybe to start showing up as myself instead of a ghost. Alina walked to the door. At the threshold, she paused. One more thing, she said. Aisha, if she's still in your life, or even if she isn't, tell her the clause worked. Tell her someone finally stood up in the room she was asked to leave. Reginald Jr. swallowed. I will. Outside, the rain had eased to mist. Alina walked the 3 blocks to the subway, collar up, hands in pockets. The city moved around her, taxis splashing, couples under umbrellas, a street musician playing something slow and hopeful on a saxophone. She pulled out her phone, opened her daughter's last text. A selfie of her eating ice cream straight from the carton, caption, "Saving some for you red." Elena smiled, typed back, "Home soon. Love you bigger than the rain." As she descended the subway stairs, her second phone buzzed again, this time from Sophia Chen. "Board just approved the independent seat. Your name is already on the letterhead. See you at the presser. We did this." Elena stepped onto the platform. The train lights appeared in the tunnel, bright and steady. But as the doors opened and she stepped inside, a breaking news alert flashed across every passenger's phone. Langford Tech stock surges 11% after surprise board restructuring. Sources say Black CEO Elena Harper now holds formal oversight role. The press conference lights were softer than the gala chandeliers. Elena stood at the podium in a simple navy blouse, the faint white line on her cheek catching the camera flashes like a quiet signature. No makeup covered it, no filter softened it. Behind her, Reginald Langford SR. Sat flanked by Victoria, Preston, and Leela, shoulders straight, hands folded, no pearls clutched in panic. The room was packed. Journalists, analysts, a handful of Langford employees who had asked for the day off just to watch. Sophia Chen stood off to the side, arms crossed, small, proud smile breaking through her usual reserve. Elena adjusted the microphone once. 16 hours ago, she said, voice steady and low, I was introduced to this room by an emerald ring and a false assumption. Tonight I stand here because one family chose to turn humiliation into accountability. Not perfectly, not instantly, but honestly. She paused. The clicks of cameras sounded like distant rain. Langford Tech and Apex Neural will move forward with the full $2.8 billion partnership. But the contract now carries new language we wrote together at 3 a.m. this morning. 30% increase in underrepresented executive hires within 18 months. 15% supplier diversity spend. Full pay equity audit every quarter. And an AI performance lock. If any division falls short, optimization throttles automatically until corrected. Profits will literally reward inclusion. A murmur rippled through the reporters. Victoria leaned forward to the shared mic. I will personally complete the 60-hour bias training program chosen by Dr. Harper. My family joins me. The Langford Foundation is launching a $10 million fund for Black and minority-owned AI startups today. Independent board, no veto power from us. And the anonymous reporting app goes into beta next month, built with Sophia Chen's team. No one should ever have to stand alone in a ballroom again. Preston spoke next, voice cracking only once. I made a joke that wasn't funny. I'm learning why. I start training next week, not because it's required, because I don't want to be that person anymore. Leela's turn. She held no phone. I ended the live stream myself. I've read every comment. Some still hate me. That's fair, but I'm choosing to do better. The app was my idea to fund. I want it to work. Reginald closed the statements. I almost lost this company because I failed to lead my own home. Today I keep it because I'm learning to lead differently. Dr. Harper now holds a permanent independent board seat. She will co-chair our ethics committee. This is not PR. This is survival. The room erupted in questions. Elena answered every one, calm, precise, never raising her voice. When a reporter asked if she had forgiven the Langfords, she smiled faintly. Forgiveness is personal. Accountability is public. We have chosen the latter. The rest will come in time or it won't. Either way, the work continues. After the final flash, Elena stepped down. Victoria met her at the edge of the stage. No hug this time, just a small nod, eyes clear. Thank you for giving us the chance to earn trust, Victoria said. Elena answered, thank you for taking it. 6 months later, the scar had faded to a thin silver thread, visible only in certain light. Elena stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of her Tribeca apartment, watching the city pulse below. Spring had arrived early. Central Park was a haze of green. Her daughter, now 13, leaned against her side, head resting on Elena's shoulder the way she had since she was small. They're calling it the Harper Protocol at business school, the girl said, scrolling on her tablet. Harvard just added it to their case study list. You're in textbooks, Mom. Elena laughed softly. I was in the wrong ballroom once. Now I help write the rules for every ballroom. The Langford Foundation's first fund recipients had presented that morning, 3 Black women founders whose startups already showed early traction. The anonymous app had logged its first 3 reports, all resolved within 48 hours with real consequences. Langford Tech's diversity numbers were up 19%. Stock was steady. Reginald had personally flown to Newark to apologize to Marcus's sister during her onboarding at Apex. Victoria now mentored young women of color entering nonprofit boards. Preston had completed his training and quietly started a scholarship in Aisha's name. Reginald Jr. had finally told the family the full story. Leela's written apology post had been shared 2 million times. She now ran the foundation's social channels with zero filters and total transparency. Marcus Hale had finally asked Alina to dinner 3 weeks ago. She had said yes. Their first date had been simple: Thai food, no cameras, long conversations about foster care and quiet love and building things that last. Alina's daughter looked up. If it happened again tomorrow, would you still do everything the same? Alina thought about the question, the one every reflective viewer would ask themselves tonight. I would stay calm, she said. I would protect what I built, and I would give them the same chance I was never given, because rage feels good for a moment, strategy lasts forever. The girl smiled. I want to be like you when I grow up. You already are, Alina whispered, pressing a kiss to her daughter's forehead. Outside, the city lights began to flicker on, millions of small decisions glowing against the coming dark. Alina's reflection in the glass showed the faint scar, the steady eyes, the woman who had turned one cut into 1,000 quiet revolutions. She pulled her daughter closer. The hug that had waited 6 months ago still felt warm. This was the real victory, not the billions saved, not the headlines, not even the protocol that now ran through hundreds of companies. The victory was this: a mother and daughter standing together, unafraid of any room they chose to enter. And somewhere across town, a Langford family sat down to their first unscripted dinner in years. Talking, listening, beginning again. What would you have done in Alina's position? Would you have ended the contract immediately, or given them the chance to change? Drop your honest answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this story moved you, hit like, share it with someone who needs to see what quiet power looks like, and subscribe to Millionaire CEO Stories for more real talk revenge to redemption journeys that actually happen behind closed doors. Turn on notifications. You never know which story will change how you show up tomorrow. See you in the next one. Stay unbreakable. Red.